Cool, cool. Okay, hi. How are you guys doing? Very good. Okay. Okay. So hi. My name is Cody, and some of you guys might remember me from a few years ago. I actually grew up here, and FPC Arcadia was actually a church I went to I don't know. I was from age 0 to 10 or something, and being born into a Christian household, I feel like there's this misconception that we already know all there is to know about God. Like, I feel like every time I hear these testimonies, people give and stuff like that, they're always super crazy, and people are doing all these they're killing people or something like that and doing drugs. And I guess growing up, I was a good kid. I was a rule follower. I didn't do drugs. So I wasn't smoking weed like Pastor Andrew. I thought I was a good Christian because I memorized all these Bible stories, and I knew all the answers to everything that people would say about who created us or whatever and stuff like that. And I knew all the worship songs at the church every Sunday. And every time when I look back on where I was in your guys' shoes, just being in youth group, I just remember feeling like I thought I knew what I was doing, but the truth was God was really just in this little box I put on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I was just a lukewarm Christian, just going through the motions. And many of you guys in the room, the other 6 days of the week, I was just super obsessed about school, which doesn't sound that harmful. I mean, it's not weed like Pastor Andrew. Not there's anything bad about it's weed, but I don't know why I keep saying that. But as a small group leader, week after week, right? Just talking to a lot of you guys, especially because I've been talking to some of you guys in middle school and high school. It seems every time I ask you guys, oh, what's going on with you guys? What are you guys anxious about? What's bringing you stress? All of you guys just say school, and I don't blame you, because when I was in your guys' shoes, that's probably what I would have said. And I really don't blame you, because it's a real thing. Just look at this statistic, right? So this is the normal stress value for American adults, 3.8 out of 10. Yeah, but it's gonna do a right click. Okay, but for American teens, the average stress rate is actually 5.8 out of 10, which is a whole 2 points higher. It sounds weird because adults have all these crazy problems like mortgage and paying for utilities and stuff like that. Yeah, being an adult, it's cool. But as teenagers, we're still a whole 2 points higher in stress. And it's really because 75% of American high schoolers feel regularly stressed about school. But there's obviously a reason why we're stressed about school, right? Growing up in an Asian home like many of you guys, academics was a huge part of my upbringing, as I'm sure it was for you guys. And it's in our culture, right? We're told oh, you need to get the good grade for the good job, be doctor, be lawyer, and make good money. And it's something that drives us though. There's this quote I remember as a teenager, I remember hearing, and it's, "I am the master of my fate, and I am the captain of my soul." And it's from the poem Invictus. And I remember hearing this quote around middle school, and it really just stuck with me. And I feel when I look back on my life, I just remember being told, this narrative, not just from others, but from the world, which is if you work hard enough, you'll be able to reach the goals you want in life. And I was determined to do things my way to obtain those goals. And for me, I saw the writing on the wall very, very early. It's, okay, if I want to do good in life, I'm going to have to get good grades. I'm going to have to go to a prestigious university and land a really good job, hopefully, so I can make a lot of money. And it's really the truth of what drives a lot of us to insanity, with doing just schoolwork all the time. So in middle school, I had already set this goal, and I remember just being part of the GATE program and attending college workshops all the time, participating in local academic competitions, sucking up to all my teachers, just taking the most advanced subject material they'd let me. If you can be ahead in math, you'd be ahead in math. If there's science, but then there's an honor science, you do honor science. if there's like honors PE, you're probably taking honors PE, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just try to do that. And I remember by the end of middle school, I pushed myself to be in like the top 3 students in my class, and I was determined to continue that trend in high school. And I remember just sitting down with my parents. Actually, this was like a big, really interesting moment for me, where in my district we have 4 high schools. One of the high schools was like the snobby rich kid one, so I didn't want to be associated with that. But the other 3 were, dang, I should have like brought water up here. I'm like getting thirsty. Anyway, the other 3, there's one that, you know, fed, like when I went to middle school. Thank you so much. When I went to middle school, there was a high school that all my friends went to. It was like the main feeder school into that high school. There's another high school that was actually had like a digital arts program that really like fed into like my hobbies, because I've always been into like video production, audio production. And there's another high school that was this really like academic powerhouse, and it was known for that in like, you know, the area. It had like an IB program, and it had like all these like really, it had this gate magnet school that fed into it, and it was known for being like, this is the school that like, if you're gonna like want to compete with others to get into that school, into that university, like this is where you go. And I remember just like, but none of my friends were going there, and I remember just thinking to myself at a time that it was a pretty easy decision. Like, of course, you know, you choose your career over like what you love and over my friends, and it was an easy choice for me. But I remember freshman year of high school just sitting on the lunch tables with like no friends and a class schedule that was determined to eat me alive, as probably it was for a lot of you guys. And I just kept reminding myself about this quote, and just remind myself that I have to push myself, and if losing my friends is what it's going to take, then that's what it's going to take. And for the next 4 years, I pushed myself as hard as I could to get into that university of my dreams. I remember I took as many AP classes as I could. I took up leadership positions in school. I started clubs. I did hundreds of hours of community service, varsity sports, orchestra, digital arts. I earned plenty of academic awards, and for the next couple of years had such a full schedule with like 0 periods and extra periods that I was at school like Monday to Friday from 6:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And that's not even including like orchestra concerts and like track meets and all that stuff, and being on other random events. And I remember just feeling so stressed. I was breaking out in like severe acne. I was drinking like 2 venti like iced coffees a day, which I have no idea how I did that, to be honest. And like running consistently on like 3 to 4 hours of sleep every night because I had so much homework. And like clockwork, I remember, this is so sad. I mean, not sad as in like tragic, but just like really like weird, is like I would go like clockwork to the library, and like literally like the librarians would know me by name. They'd be like, they'd know me by name, they'd know like my entire class schedule, because I was there from like Monday through Friday, all day Saturday, and I was there like just studying, and there would be times I'd just fall asleep on my textbooks out of exhaustion because I was just so, like I was just pushing my body to like a breaking point, and these librarians would wake me up and be like, damn, AP Euro? Oh shoot, I mean, I can't, sorry, I don't know if that's cuss word or not, but they'd be like, wow, AP Euro, good luck, my friend. And I would just like, I remember I'd be on Sundays, I would just be begging my mom like to let me skip church because I had so much homework, and I was like, church was just a waste of my time to me. I was like, and it was just like this thing I went to, and I mean, I love Jesus, but I mean, Jesus can understand, you know, I want to, you know, achieve my dreams, right? And I remember just by the time college admissions came, like I'd already put in so many years of work. I'd gone to all these college workshops. I'd spent so much time with my academic counselor, and I had, you know, obviously you study for like, back when standardized tests was a thing, I like studied for the ACT, I did well. I spent months proofreading my personal statement. I had amazing letters of rec because obviously I was sucking up to all my teachers. And I basically thought, okay, I have like a pretty decent, you know, resume here that I could comfortably get into at least some of my target schools. You know, I mean, obviously you have your reach schools, and I was like, okay, you know, maybe I could get into some, I have a shot at one of those, but I could definitely at least comfortably get into like some of my target schools, and then obviously you have your safety schools. And for me, it's like I've done everything right. I, you know, put in the work, as people had said, and if you put in the work, you're gonna achieve your goals. And I just remember just studying this college admissions process to a T. I knew that with the stats I had and with like the things I had achieved, like I was set to make it into like a high-ranking four-year university. That was what had pushed me, And I sent out my apps and I just waited and waited, and it was this key moment during this time where actually I remember I was going to Vineyard Anaheim at the time. I met with my youth pastor and he asked me about the schools I applied to, and normally people would be like, oh, you applied there? Like, oh, that's like cool, like tell me more about that. Or they'd be like, oh, that's so exciting that you're like thinking of going to this school. My son went to that school or something like that. But he actually had a very different question. I remember he just looked at me and he was like, how do you think you'll feel if you get rejected from these schools? And his question caught me off guard. I mean, I knew I'd get rejected from some schools, you don't think you're gonna get into everything, but it seemed just so unlikely that I'd get rejected from like everything, And but yet a few months later or a month later, the decisions would come trickling in. And it was just rejection, 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 rejection. And I just remember 4 years ago, actually today, because today's like April 2022. So around this time, it was actually like I'd already received all my decisions in high school. And I just remember just feeling so defeated. It was like 6 years of work was like absolutely just all in vain. And I remember seeing classmates posting their acceptance packages on their Instagram stories. They're wearing university sweatshirts at school, and here I was just feeling so much resentment toward them. But, because it was like, here were these people who did half the work. Some of these people who cheated off of me to do their assignments and to do their tests, who had much lower GPAs, who had a fraction of the extracurriculars I had, get into schools that rejected me. And I felt so defeated. I felt super angry, but most of all, I felt just lost. And for years, I've been accustomed to being like at the top of my class, but now it just felt like I hit rock bottom. And this quote that driven me for so long, I'm the master of my fate, I'm the captain of my soul, it just didn't make sense anymore, which is really normal if you go through rejection, or not rejection, but disappointment, I guess. It's like, nothing makes sense. You'd put in the time, the energy, the work. I didn't cheat, I didn't cut corners, I still went to church. And it felt like, my world was crashing around me because I put my identity in something, and it just was taken away from me, and it wasn't rewarded. And in the middle of this perfect storm, I remember God met me with a verse from Romans 8:28, and it says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose." And I remember not really understanding this verse at the time. It just seems so weird, it seems so bizarre. Like, when you put in all this time and nothing's working together for good. Everything up to that point had been 6 years of all this work, and none of it appeared to be going for good. And so I remember questioning God, like, how could anything good come out of the situation? After all, God closed every door I wanted him to open. And I wanted to attend my target schools right out of high school, but all of them said no. And what he left me with were two very undesirable options, which was either bite the bullet and go to these safety schools that I didn't want to go to, or take a gamble through the desert, because that was the only way I'd have a shot at even going into the promised land. And that desert was community college. And I know it sounds like a really harsh description for a community college because, but for me it was definitely like a desert. Let me give you some context, right? So for all my life, I had viewed community college as like the absolute bottom of the barrel. It was where like the dumb people went, It was like the trashy school. It was literally the laughing stock of my family. When people would ask me what my dream school was, I remember like I've always been kind of a pessimist, and people would be like, "Oh, like where do you want to go? What's your dream school?" And then, a lot of times people would say like, "Oh, Harvard or something." I'd be like, "Oh, Fullerton Junior College," and then people would be like, "Oh, haha, funny." But because for someone of my academic caliber, it's just like no one went there. Like it's a trashy community college, Yet at the time, ironically, it was the only route that even offered a small chance of attending the schools I knew I was qualified to attend. And, but unlike the years of research I'd spent figuring out, oh, how do you do this college admissions thing? How do you get into a university of senior year? I knew nothing about community college. It never really even crossed my mind because it was like a joke, And neither did anyone I knew. Like around me, I had friends in cross country, and they were like, if you know, I don't know how your cross country teams are at your school, but in my school we were all like nerds and stuff like that. And all of my cross country friends, they got into Cornell, Brown, Princeton, UCLA, just to name a few, and virtually, like literally no one was going to community college. And at the time they were worried, even they were worried for me. They were like, I don't know if you're making the right decision, bro. Like, it's no guarantee you're gonna like get into these universities. Re-roll the dice again. It just didn't make sense to them. And I had friends who had similar admissions outcomes as me who like got rejected from a lot of schools. And I remember they weren't very helpful either, because they just chose to bite the bullet and go to their safety schools, and instead of humiliating themselves, you know. And I remember just going in absolutely blind, but with nothing left to lose, I just trusted this verse, almost like, I guess, to like test God and just be like, okay, I'm gonna go down this route, but like, you know, it's gonna be a lie. Like, nothing good is gonna come out of this, you know. Like, I mean, it's always gonna be plan B. It's never gonna be, there's no way that this route could have supplanted my original plan. My original plan to go into like a university after high school. Like, that's the best plan, and this is kind of just like the secondary backup one that God's gonna lead me on, and it's like not gonna be as cool. No way. And but I abandoned the offers I received from my safety schools, and I just enrolled in community college. And for months I felt, you know, absolutely like ashamed about my decision. And I think, you know, the devil was intent on making me feel that way, because I would just, you know, feel so like, I would feel like people would think I'm stupid if I told them like, oh, I'm going to community college. They'd be like, oh, are you like dumb or something? And in a school that placed its identity in academic rigor, I just felt so alone compared to my classmates who had committed to rigorous 4-year schools. And it made sense, because why would anyone willingly strip themselves of like the coveted freshman university experience, you know, like going to your dorms, like, you know, partying, like the bragging rights to wear your university sweatshirt, like the right to put in your IG bio, like UCLA 22, like it's this victory lap that anyone who's been in this process knows. Like, when you reach senior year, like this is your victory lap where you could finally just like revel in the work you put in for 6 years, you know. And you know, to me the biggest question really was, why would anyone put in 4 years of grueling academic work to attend the same school that like a high school bottom feeder who didn't submit a single assignment probably could get into? And it wasn't just humiliating, it was like deliberately erasing any payout you could have gotten from that academic resume you worked so hard to create. And I would be sitting in class, and my teachers would have us go around announcing like, oh, which university did you guys get into? And every time it came to me, I'd just feel like so much fear. And over the summer, people would be posting like orientation videos. They'd be posting about that they're going campus tours. In the fall, it's like week 0, like in the UCs, and people would be like posting about all the concerts and parties and events they're going to in these glistening, expensive campuses. But meanwhile, I was just going to just boring community college at home. But as the school year went on, I remember realizing that community college wasn't as bad as it seemed. I mean, for one, the easier course load allowed me to reconnect with friends I neglected. My professors were really helpful. I was able to obtain like a scholarship that like paid for everything in community college, and most importantly, it was, you know, really, they were very generous with all my AP credits I accumulated in high school, and I was able to do the whole thing in a year. And I was still really pessimistic though. I was still looking at God and being like, okay, I don't know, like, if this is too good to be true, like, I'm probably just gonna get rejected from everywhere. I had like all this PTSD, you know? But I was still really scared, but I remember submitting my applications and just feeling like there's no way God can make something good come out of the situation. But when everything came back, I was shocked. I literally didn't get rejected anywhere. I got accepted to everything I applied to. And I was really weirded out because I was in the same situation before high school, where like before high school, I was in that same like decision, you know, where I had these 4 schools in my district, and there was like the Snobby Rich Kid School, there's a school that like helped me pursue my hobbies, a school my friends went to, and there's a school that like would help me with my career. And here I was again, literally like with all these universities and the exact same thing. I had like a dream school here that I had thought about since I was like 5. I had a school that was ranked top 10 in the country for the major I was pursuing. And then I had a local school that would put me in close proximity with my family and my friends in my church. And a year ago, if you had asked me a year before that decision, you know, oh, what school do you pick? It was a no-brainer. You pick academics, it always trumps relationships. Two of those schools would bring me a lot further in my career than the school that, would just bring me closer in my relationships. Yet at that moment, I was reminded what happened the last time I took matters into my own hands and followed that Invictus quote. And I decided to just commit to the university that would bring me closer to my family and my friends and my church. And then going into that, I remember making that decision. I waited until the very last day to put in my statement of intent to register. And I just remember thinking to God, like, I don't know if this is gonna work. Like I like passed up 2 universities I really, really wanted to go to, and they were really, really good. And I was like, I don't know if choosing God in this situation was gonna help. But once again, God's plan trumped the plan I sacrificed, because just 2 academic quarters into my first year at university, the pandemic broke out. And if I had chosen the 2 other schools, I would have been stuck with a housing agreement that would probably suck a lot more money out of me. I would have been in debt and unable to pursue the in-person research opportunities and academic mentorships and internships that both of the other schools would have promised me. Like the things that drew me to those 2 other schools would have been like non-existent in a pandemic. And actually being at home, like being able to live at home because I chose this other school, helped me actually pursue like better relationships with my family. It helped me support, people going through mental health issues. It helped me spend more time with grandma on her last year on earth. And I was able to save a lot of money that would have otherwise been wasted. And as a bonus, the school I chose also allowed me to deepen my faith and meet so many really cool Christ followers that were just super amazing, including my girlfriend. And as a bonus, as I look to attend law school in the fall, God's plan is still paying dividends, like as I speak. Like if I had chosen, if I had gone my original plan going into university straight out of high school, like I would have never been able to go to community college. And even as I apply law school, there's this thing that oversees the law school admissions process. It's like the College Board, but they're like for law school. It's called like the Law School Admissions Council. And basically they award like GPA credits based on like your academic credits. So like if that doesn't make sense to you, basically your GPA you earn in a semester system weighs a lot harder than a GPA you earned in a quarter system. And so ironically, the GPA I earned in community college actually ended up helping me a lot more than the GPA I earned in university. And if I had never gone to community college, I would have had a much lower GPA, which would have set me up worse for law school admissions. And even more so, there's this professor I met in community college, and he ended up actually being like a huge mentor throughout my law school admissions process, and none of my university professors actually really helped me out that much. And in hindsight, getting rejected from all my dream schools in high school ended up being like the greatest thing that ever happened to me, which is really nuts to think about that I could even say that. I feel like if I'd gone my original plan, if I had, just been accepted like to all the schools I wanted to go to after high school, I would have been a much more prideful person. I would have basically just told people like, oh yeah, like just work hard and you'll get into what you want to do, I would have lost a lot of money. I'd be in debt right now for sure, because I'd have 4 years of university I have to pay for. I would have had lower grades that would have set me up worse for law school, and I would have not had the friends I have right now that I was able to reconnect with in community college. And my faith honestly would have been lost. Like I was going down a path where I was losing my faith in God because I was just doing things my own way. And I definitely would have just lost sight of that. And today I look back at my high school self and realize that his version of a best case scenario would have been awful for my life. And despite the years of workshops I attended and all the research I conducted, I was on track to lose my faith in Christ, and I would have pursued a plan that would have destroyed me financially, academically, and relationally. It was actually because of God's mercy that he allowed me to experience massive rejection and disappointment in my college admissions process. And because of God's plan, I'm no longer the captain of my fate or the master of my soul. God is the captain of my fate, and God is the master of my soul. And I encourage you guys that if you surrender everything to him and allow him to be the author of your story, he will lead you down an unexpected path that will end up being the best thing you could have ever hoped for. So if you're like me and you fall asleep on Pastor Andrew's sermons, you probably are falling asleep right now, and here's like the application part, and you should probably wake up and like listen to this part. Because how you've probably been listening and you're like, oh, that's a cool story and all, Cody, but how does this apply to my life? And, for me, the first thing is that I want to let you guys know is that God knows what's best for you a lot better than you do. I think there's a lot of people in this room, including myself still, that struggle with setting goals for ourselves, telling ourselves like, oh, everything would work out so well if I was just able to like get into this one school, or if I'm able to like date this one girl, or if I'm able to get this dream job, you know what I'm saying? Like, but here, the problem with that is that only God knows like the school or, your partner or like your job that's best for you. You don't know that. And a lot of times we set these goals and they're not even what's best for us, yet God knows what's best for us. And I feel like there's a saying that I want to impart on you guys, and it's a Yiddish saying that says, man plans, God laughs. And it's because life's so unpredictable that if we think we know what's best for ourselves, we're sorely, sorely wrong. And I think one thing that I learned from my story that I want to impart on you guys is, if you're ever feeling overwhelmed with like, oh my gosh, this plan I have is not working out, just leave it to God. Let the creator of the universe do it for you. The guy knows like literally everything that's gonna happen in the future. So if you're ever torn between two choices, choose a choice that will actually bring you closer to God, and he'll rearrange your steps to allow that to work out for you. The second thing I want to impart on you guys, and I don't know if any of you guys are going through rejection right now, but one thing I learned is that God often uses rejection to redirect us to something better. Every time I've told myself in my life, this isn't the only time, I've I don't know, different, I guess, areas in my life that didn't work out too besides academics, but one thing I've noticed in my own life is every time I've told myself, there's no way anything good comes out of losing this opportunity, God always proves me so wrong. Every time I just leave it to him and I'm like, I don't see how this is gonna work out, but God always does some crazy stuff, and then like 5 years later I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, thank God that you didn't let me go down that path I was thinking of, and you stepped in and you did things your way. Personally, I'm not very good at handling rejection, and it's often because I do my due diligence every time I really pursue something, and I'm like, when I pursue something, I give it 110%, and I'm like, this is the only way, this is the best way to do things. But God, every time I've been rejected from something that I really wanted, God was always just protecting me from something I didn't realize at the time. And he usually opens up another door that's really unexpected, ends up being the best thing ever, but it's always something that's super unusual and oh, that's a really weird road I never thought I'd go down, but it ended up being the best road. So if you're experiencing rejection right now, don't try to force open a door that God already closed. He'll let you if you really, really force yourself. He gives us free will, right? But you might not understand why he closed it, but trust in him, and I promise one day you will understand, and he will lead you somewhere even better. And the final point I want to let you guys know about today is, life's not fair, but that's okay. You are not the master of your fate, and you're certainly not the captain of your soul. The world's gonna tell you, if you set your mind to something, if you really, for me, I'm really into hip hop, and there's all these rappers, like Travis Scott or whatever, and he's like, follow your dreams, and it's yeah, it worked out for Travis Scott, but for every Travis Scott, there's 99 other Travis Scotts that it didn't work out for, you know what I'm saying? And the world's gonna tell you, if you set your mind to something and work hard at it and believe in yourself, you will achieve anything you want, and that's just not true, especially if you're a Christian. I think we all know that one person that has that 10-year plan, you know what I'm saying? It's when I'm gonna finish college by 22, I'm gonna get my master's by 23, I'm gonna get engaged by 25, I'm gonna get married by 27, I'm gonna have kids by 30. And that stuff just doesn't happen. You set goals, but life's so unpredictable. It's gonna throw a lot of curveballs at you, and if you hold on to those goals, you're limiting God, and you're not letting God work out his unique plan in your life, which is probably a lot different than the plan you think is best for yourself. But my advice would be to set goals and to just hold them with a loose grip. That's something my mom had always told me for so long, but I'm only finally starting to understand now is you could set goals, yeah, for sure. Definitely set goals. Don't just sit back and be I'm gonna stay at home forever and God's gonna make me a millionaire. That doesn't happen. But set goals, but hold it with a loose grip. If things don't work out, it's fine. God's doing something in your life, and just let him work. There's gonna be times where unqualified losers are gonna get jobs you deserve. There's gonna be times where bad guys are going to date your crush, and there's going to be times that lazy students are going to get into your dream school. But Matthew 24:9 says, "Then they will deliver you to tribulation and will kill you, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name." You know, something tells me that if you are getting rejected or ostracized or things aren't working out for you in this world, you're probably doing something right because you're a Christian. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were never called to make it in this world because our riches are after this. So trusting God's plan hardly ever means you'll actually gain the world. Oftentimes, you'll actually probably lose the world. But that doesn't mean that God's plan spells doom and gloom either. And when we trust in God, we enter into his promise. A promise that states, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those called according to his purpose. And when we love God and put God first, all things will work together for your good. It doesn't mean you'll get like a ton of money or like you're gonna like get everything you want, but it does mean you'll experience fulfillment and joy and love in the Spirit that nothing will ever give you. Yes, life's unfair, but our God is just. And when we trust his plan, it doesn't matter if other people gain the world by doing less. You know, I know so many friends who are studying in better schools than me, they're pursuing better jobs, they're making more money, but they cut corners, they cheated, they lied. And that's okay, you know? Trusting God means his plan will fulfill your needs in a world that's hell-bent to make you think otherwise. I like to make an analogy, you know, that the Christian life is very much like going to the gym. I don't know about you guys, but I really like weightlifting and stuff like that. And on paper, it doesn't really make sense, you know, to go to the gym. Like you're taking time out of your day to go lift heavy weights to make you sore. It literally inflicts pain on you. And you're not allowed to eat like really fun food like ice cream and stuff like that. You know, you have to like watch your calories and stuff. But in reality, and so when you look at that on paper, it's like, wow, how could you ever do that? Like, how could you like go take time out of your day, spend gas money, like, and inflict pain on yourself where you're like lifting weights to make you sore, but you actually feel like you can't live your life without it. Like you're actually so much more fulfilled, you're a lot healthier, and you're a lot happier because you went to the gym, you know? That's very much like what the Christian life is like. And the world's gonna make you think that God's plan isn't worth it, that you could achieve way more by doing a lot less. But nothing this world can offer will fill you with the everlasting peace, love, and joy that God's plan promises if you choose to surrender everything to Christ Jesus. So, anyway, that's my testimony. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, I guess I'll just pray to close things out because that's what pastors do, right? Okay. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this group of kids, Lord. We thank you that, you know, you're writing your story in each one of their lives just as much as you're writing your story in mine. And I just pray, you know, if any of them are experiencing rejection or disappointment, that you'll just fill them with the peace and understanding that your plan is something that they can't even understand, but it's so much better than anything that they're sad about. And I just pray you'll just work in their lives and remind them of your love, your grace, and your mercy as we go on to tackle this week, and as some of these seniors go on to figure out what university they're going to, and other people figure out what job they're going to get, just you know, Lord, just give them that peace and understanding that you're there and you're guiding their steps. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, cool. I don't know what to do after this, but yeah.